So when this game was released a few weeks ago, I was quite reluctant to play it at first with all the Halo Infinite flights and stuff being released at that week of course. I heard positive feedback from gamers on Twitter regarding the quality of this game and I knew I had to review it. After hours and hours of gameplay, is this game worth your money and time? Let's dive in and take a closer look. The Ascent is released only on the Xbox Series X and S or on the PC and is not available in PlayStation. It's available on Xbox Game Pass as well, and if you haven't subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, I recommend that you do subscribe because there's a lot of games there. This game is developed by Neon Giant and is released on July 29th and is priced at $29.99. So set in Veles, you take on the role as an indent, basically a slave for the Ascent group, a corporation running this cyberpunk-esque town. You have no background of who you are or whatsoever diving into the story, and that doesn't feel wrong because you're not really a special character in the game. You really feel like you're a slave. You get to customize your character, although there's not much to choose from. Colors for your gear are the highlight of your customization, and I recommend to go for the light colors so you can actually see yourself in this game. The Ascent itself is a twin-stick shooter, and right off the bat you begin fighting disgusting monkeys called ferals and running rants here and there for some lad named Poon, and he's really pain in the bumford. Eventually you find out that the corporation has smashed into pieces mysteriously and you are tasked by Poon to possibly prevent an internal war amongst different factions. And of course they are fighting for power, and also to find out what the hell happened to the great government of the Ascent group. Story-wise it's pretty average, and if you're finding something like wow, it really isn't. But I must say there's something about the story infused with the twin-stick shooter genre that really makes it one of a kind. On top of that, there's class discrimination in this town of Veles, and it really makes this game feel like you're an indent trying just to survive. I find myself somehow spending hours trying to complete side missions which at times have little to no context, it's just you helping people out randomly. But I find it somehow addictive, and I'm not really sure if that's the word to describe it, but there's definitely some satisfaction shooting thugs, and even bigger thugs. Lore is also available, and I really appreciate that from the developers themselves. It really shows their attention to detail. No spoilers, but the arc of the story is pretty okay and it's not over the top or anything like that. Honestly, I felt like I got forcibly pushed towards the ending by the characters in this game, and I just feel that the story just shoves you with tasks one after the other, and at times I'm just doing the mission because the guy said, hey, go open the reactor or go kill this guy, which doesn't really have an emotional or influential impact towards the gamer. And if you wish to do side missions at the end, you are free to do so because you get to roam around afterwards to shoot more thugs. Speaking of shooting, let's get into combat. And of course you have two weapons, one primary and one secondary, with infinite ammo being a twin-stick shooter and all. Therefore you can pretty much go in guns blazing most of the time. I think you can try to sneak through the map, but let me tell you, that's nearly impossible because once they see you, it's pretty much havoc. Enemies comes in waves, and the difficulty lies in handling them when the game is bombarding you with 10 gazillion thugs and missiles and grenades, and that's why I find this game annoying and possibly grindy as what other reviews have been saying. At times I'm dying not because I suck at this game, although possibly it's true, but because the enemies are overflowing from literally nowhere. This quickly becomes annoying, and there's no difficulty settings for this game. Crouching and aiming over the head are the mechanics used to help you out, but you have to decisively pick the appropriate shooting method, whether you want to go high or go low, and it slightly changes the game to your favor. However, if you die, I did recognize that the enemies, or mostly bosses, will become more easy to kill. So how do you gain an edge against your enemies? Well, the ability to fight your enemies can be customized with various skills in 4 areas: cybernetics, motorics, biometrics, and frame, each just describing health, dexterity, accuracy, and luck. There are augments that are available that are like special abilities to help your character fight off various enemies, from close combat techniques to picking up loot off the ground. For Neon Giant's first big game, it's really great to see them create or correlate different abilities such as augments and skills to work with one another. Not to mention that the gameplay of how you destroy your opponents also depends on your armor, which are obtained through Ucreds, which are your currency in this game, or basic components, which in other words is grinding. Bounties are also available, but they act as random spawns with random names of people that you kill and redeem your money at bars. I've never been a big fan of grinding at all, but the addictive nature of this game really makes it satisfying, like I've said before. Of course, over time it really gets onto you, and it's something to be wary about if you do not want to be playing a game for hours on end like Destiny. So you might be asking, is it rewarding to complete all these side missions or even story missions? And let me just say, yes, to a certain extent, because gaining those Ucreds and making your character better and stronger really feels significant. For example, I racked up my shooting abilities and my guy just hammered through those thugs from far distances. And it's really satisfying, but in terms of the context, how you know some characters will just be like, oh thanks, and go on with their normal lives.
I'll update you later.
is not really memorable and really downplays this aspect of the game. And of course we have to talk about the graphics of this game, and let me just tell you guys, it's pretty amazing. For twin stick shooter, I find myself immersed in this cybertown, and the view you get when you first step into the surroundings is just jaw-dropping. Most of the time the camera is well placed and it shifts to give you a cinematic effect that makes you go nice, although at times you might have difficulty adjusting to the walls blocking your screen as you traverse the level. And that's when we talk about travelling in this game. Travelling at first comprises of just walking, but eventually you'll be introduced to the taxi and it can take you anywhere at any checkpoint in the game with, of course, money. But I find myself using the Interlink, pretty much a metro in Veles that allows me to travel to any other station in the map for free. The Interlink itself provides a much immersive depth to this game, especially with the cut screen of you inside the Interlink itself. Finally, let's talk about voices. For a twin stick shooter, I didn't really expect a lot of great voice acting, and that's what you get in the game. Voice acting isn't bad per se, but it's really those kind of voice acting that you can tolerate throughout the game. Have a listen.
Attacked a meeting. I have no idea what you're jabbering about, but that ugly speech hole of yours
being the only way forward. I want you to handle security for the moot. In a crisis like this, you can always expect to see a few witless wonders stepping up to bat. The Turbo Vipers are already trying on a protection racket so stupid it defies questions. Shoot.
The gunshots do sound like their own weapons, and an SMG does sound like an SMG, and there's no fault there. In terms of soundtrack, it nicely fits into the cyberpunk themed world that Neon Giant has developed, although it wasn't really that memorable. So overall, this twin stick shooter game was not bad as I spent hours grinding and killing. There is definitely a fun factor with all the relative customization and attributes that make your character stronger. This in turn fits into that addictive loop of wanting to kill more. However, this state of euphoria doesn't really last that long, and I really find myself just wanting to get over the game. So for my game reviews, I always rate my games from 1 to 10, and I give you guys advice on whether to buy this game or not. So for me, this game was a solid 7 out of 10, although it's fun, it's really repetitive and the storyline didn't really feel compelling to me. For Neon Giant's first game, I really could see the effort they put into this game, and maybe in the future we can get a much greater twin stick shooter. So if you guys have the Game Pass and have time to spare, I think you should really try this game out. But if you don't, I recommend buying this game only on a sale or at a cheaper price. So if you guys have made it this far, do smash that like button down below and consider subscribing if you haven't. Do also follow my social media, links in the description below. See you guys next time and have a nice day ahead. Peace.